Hi there and welcome to ATP. In this video I'm going to give you a quick run through of the amazing Panasonic S1H. So I'm not going to make this a full review of the Panasonic S1H because there's just so much to it, it will take forever. What I am going to do though is give you a quick run through now of the main features of this camera, what I like about it, what I don't like about it. I'm also going to do multiple videos showing you certain things that I love about this camera, and I'm going to compare things like the stills quality to that of the Canon 5D Mark IV, and I'm going to compare the high-end 4K video, 400 megabits per second all-intra video with that of the Panasonic GH5. So they'll be on separate videos and you can see the full review on the URL on the screen right now. So first of all, I want to say about this camera, I saw it last year. I know it's a year old now, but I saw it a year ago. I don't always tend to jump on things when they first come out. I wanted to see the general kind of reviews from the public and how people got on with this camera, and everything I've seen is absolutely incredible. The reviews just said it's one of the best cameras I've ever seen, and after about a week to 10 days of filming with it, photographing with it, I have to say this is probably my favourite camera that I've used to date. Now, I've been looking for a perfect hybrid camera for a few years. So the GH5 came close, but the stills aren't particularly good. The 5D Mark IV, no, the video's no good. It's okay now because a few years on we've learned how to edit the 4K footage with the MJPEG codecs, so it's not too bad, but it's still a real pain. There's too much missing for that camera to make it a decent video camera. Stills are fantastic, but when you see them compared with this, you may kind of be a bit surprised perhaps. So this camera, after this time of using it, I think it's almost the perfect hybrid camera. The stills quality is absolutely insane. The video quality is even better. It goes up to 6K at 24p or 5.9K at up to 30 frames a second. That's full frame capture. So the 4K and the 5.9K is full frame capture. So it's absolutely incredible. So I'm going to run through the camera quickly. What I'm going to say first of all is its size. Now you can see there, it's actually a huge camera. And I compared this to the Canon EOS 5D Mark IV with the 70-200mm lens on. And let me just get the figures up. So the 5D Mark IV with 70-200mm lens came in at 2.656 kilograms, and the Panasonic S1H with the same lens on came in at 2.975, so it's 300 grams or so heavier than the 5D Mark IV, which I actually found after a day shooting a wedding fairly heavy. This makes it heavier, and as you can see in this footage now, they're the same length cameras, but because the S1H has this fan bit on the back, it sticks out a bit more, and I think overall it's a bit chunkier than the 5D Mark IV. And when you have it in your hands, when you're holding the camera, it definitely feels a lot heavier, it feels chunkier. But with that being said, it has to be because of the features it's got. Being able to film indefinitely, so you don't have to keep stopping after 30 minutes, means it will heat up, which is why you've got this built-in fan on the back. But with all the other features as well, with the image stabilization, it's quite a chunky 2.8 lens. Everything in here means it's got to be a certain size, but I don't mind that. So if you compare this to something like a Red camera or one of the huge kind of cine cams, then it's really not that bad. For an all-day wedding photographer, if you can handle it, it's the brilliant camera. It's absolutely fantastic in low light and everything. But I would still say go into a shop if you can, go into a store, pick one up, borrow one, maybe rent one for a day or two and see how you get on with it. I would recommend using an online company to rent one for a day. I think it's about 70 or 80 pounds plus VAT, and you can hire one for a day with a lens and see how you get on. After using this for 10 days, I'm seriously considering buying one, but the GH6 was actually announced recently and I want to see what the quality of that's like before I make my mind up. It'll either be a GH6 or this S1H with all of this kit you see here. This is amazing. Now I will come to those on the other videos, the stills quality and all that kind of stuff, but for now let's just have a look around the camera. So you've got great buttons, the great features, great functions. I love the way this feels. I've always liked the Panasonic menu system, and this is no exception. It's very similar to the GH5 and GH4. So if you come from those cameras, you're going to enjoy it, you're going to like it, you're going to find your way around pretty easily. I love the LCD panel on top that stays on even when the camera's off, so you can pick it up instantly, see how much battery power you've got left. It's absolutely brilliant. The amount of times I've picked up a camera and gone out with it and not knowing how much battery power is in it until I've actually got onto a shoot or walking around shooting stock and stuff. So that draws practically zero any power, but it's great to be able to see how much battery power you've got. As soon as you switch it on, you get all the functions, and then you can switch again to bring on a light at night time. It's got a night mode, so everything goes red. Looks really good. That tells me everything I need to know. It's a really, really good panel. The screen at the back is actually very good. It's similar to the Panasonic GH5 and GH4 in that you've got the pull out, tilt and swivel, but you've also got the added bit of being able to pull that out as well. The viewfinder is excellent. I would tone down the brightness a bit because it can be a bit over bright. So I had to tone that down a bit, as the same with the screen. When I got this through, the screen was incredibly bright, so I brought it back down so it's not kind of blowing out the highlights and making you compromise your exposure. But it works really well. All the buttons on the back are very similar to the GH5 again, so if you're coming from that camera, you'll love it. It's very easy to use, very intuitive. Nice big red record button on the front there, and you've also got one down here on the bottom. So wherever you are, you can obviously feel for those and you can record that way. You can still use the shutter as well, but it's quite sensitive, so I'd maybe stick to using the red buttons there. This lens is the 24-70 Lumix S Pro. This is the Lumix S Pro 70-200, both incredible lenses. And I purposely got those for review because they looked kind of similar to the setup I got with the Canon 5D Mark IV. So the only gripe with the buttons on this is where you take the lens off. So on most cameras, the button is down here. So you put your hand on, use this finger to push the button in, turn the lens and take it off. Okay, so the button here is down the bottom there. And because of the way this juts out, you can't actually get your thumb easily down there to push the button. And your hand just doesn't feel right. So Panasonic, please move this to the other side, because you have to push that in. And as you turn your hand to take the lens off, you're actually getting caught on this. And if you've got anything else on the bottom, like a tripod holder, you're getting caught, and it just makes it awkward. If it was there, you could just do that, twist it off and take it off. So that's my only gripe. That button down there is a bit of a pain. So I'll quickly run through the features of the camera, the main features of the Lumix S1H, things that I absolutely love about this camera. So first of all, it's a 24 megapixel sensor, full frame sensor. The 5D Mark IV is a 30 megapixel, so there's a little bit of difference there, but you don't really see it when you're actually looking at the images blown up. What the S1H does have is a super photo kind of mode. So traditionally with this lens, with this sensor, your photos are around 6,000 by 4,000 pixels. When you go into super mode, it doubles it to 12,000 by 6,000, or around that sort of area. And you'll see the photos if you look at the other video on the stills quality. It's pretty good. It blows it up massive. It's a huge print size, but it does need a little bit of sharpening. Obviously there's some algorithms in there that use it to actually enhance the size of the photos. So it works kind of well. It's good if you want to blow it up, sharpen it, and then crop it down a little bit. It's pretty good. But that being said, the 24 megapixel sensor is brilliant. The photos came out absolutely superb, and they're good enough for pretty much anything. I remember my first camera, Canon 10D, 6 megapixels. I had them blown up to billboard size. So this is 4 times that. So you're not going to have a problem with 24 megapixels. 422 10-bit internal recording, absolutely fantastic. And you've got dual card slots, so you can hot swap and keep going indefinitely with the use of the fan. So that is really good, a fantastic thing. I've used that for things like the shooting a world record, where I shot continuously for 108 hours using a different camera with hot swappable cards. So that's really good. You've got 5.9K video and 6K video. Now 6K video you can shoot at 24p or 23.96, and 5.9K I think you can shoot up to 30 frames a second. So I've done another video on the benefits of shooting at 6K, because it all comes down to the edit. People say, I don't need 6K, I'm still using a 1080p TV or a 1080p monitor, why would I want 6K? You'll see it on the edit video. You can do a lot of creative stuff with 6K footage if you render out at 1080 for a client, or even if you render out at 4K, it gives you some options for some really creative editing. You've got full Vlog Gamma profile included in this. You don't have to pay 100 quid anymore for that. Unlimited record time. Dual SD card slots you need a V90 card. Now I've been using a V60 and I've been limited to about 12 seconds or 15 seconds before it cuts out. My V90 card I crushed, that's 250 quid I've got to spend on a new one. So I would recommend 100% getting two V90 cards, and if you can get two 256 gigabytes, then it's going to keep you going for ages, okay? Because while one's, if you're hot swapping, one can keep recording, take the other one out, offload it, put it back in, and keep going indefinitely. You've also got internal recording with H.264 or H.265. Personally, I haven't seen much difference. H.265 you may find a little bit more difficult if you've got a slightly older computer to actually edit. It kind of jolts and jots along, whereas H.264 is still pretty good. You've got anamorphic capture. I'll come to the video modes in a minute very quickly, but there's just very many of them. There's loads of them. So you've got anamorphic on there, which is good. Variable frame rate and high frame rate video. So this will, similar to the GH5, which I'm filming with now, and the GH4, you can shoot at slow motion up to, I think it's 180 frames a second. So you can either do it in camera with audio, or you can let the camera do it yourself. You can film with the VFR, the variable frame rate. You won't get audio, but the camera will output a really nice slow motion video for you. So both very good features there. In-body image stabilization with support for Panasonic Dual IS2. It's amazing. On the GH5, it's already brilliant. If you've got a image stabilized lens coupled with the sensor stabilization, it's just incredible. And I've done a review on the Panasonic GH5 before, showing that in multiple situations, and it's incredible. This is no different. In fact, it's better. I was doing handheld shots at 2.5 seconds, and they were coming out pin sharp, and that was using this 24-70 lens. It's just amazing. So if you are a wedding photographer and don't like using flash, this is absolutely brilliant. Honestly, this is going to be my wedding camera. I'm actually going to hire this for a wedding I've got coming up, and see how I get on with it, coupled with the 5D Mark IV. So I think this is a winner with these two lenses. Brilliant for weddings. Then you've got a fully articulated screen, like I said. So this camera pretty much has everything that I think I've ever needed in a hybrid camera. The only thing is that the autofocus, like the GH4, like the GH5, is a bit of a pain. Canon absolutely whips its ass with regards to the autofocus. The dual pixel autofocus on the Canon is absolutely amazing. It's the best I've seen. On here, I wouldn't rely on autofocus. There's so many settings you need to change to actually get it to suit your kind of style of shooting, whether you're run and gunning, whether you're using a stabilizer, or if you're doing a video vlogging and you need it to autofocus on you. I haven't had time to go through that, but I have read that it's not the best. So I'm hoping Panasonic will fix that on the GH6 when it comes out. It's not going to be a game changer or a killer. It's not going to stop me buying this camera, because I tend to use manual focus anyway. So autofocus I very rarely use, so for me it's not an issue. But if you absolutely need the best autofocus going, then I'd maybe look at one of the Canon cameras, because obviously it knocks spots off this. But if you can cope with that, everything else on this camera, I'm finding it hard to find things I don't like. It's going to be the button on the front, the autofocus. Okay, so I have to make a quick apology here to Panasonic and also to you guys for what I said previously about the autofocus on the Panasonic S1H. I've actually had this for an extra day. I thought it was due back today, but it's actually due back tomorrow. So I've had a chance to really play with, study and look at the autofocus in a little bit more detail. And I have to say it's actually really good. I'm really impressed. You can see on a quick bit of footage here where I've actually shown you walking towards the camera using the face detect, and also walking around the office quickly, just showing that it kind of works. But if you want to see the longer version of this, I've done a specific video on autofocus, only a few minutes long, but I run through the actual settings, and also you see a bit more of the footage that I've done. So for me, I said in the video, there was two things I didn't really like about this. One was the autofocus, which I have to say, with video, I'm actually quite impressed. It works really well. Only kind of faltered a little bit, but most cameras do, depending on how fast you're moving and what the subject is. There's a lot of settings in here, so it will take a lot of time to learn about them. But for what I've done just very quickly, I'm actually impressed. The other thing with this camera that puts me off buying it is the weight. Can't do anything about that apart from shaving bits off it. So I'm not going to do that. So really, if it just comes down to that one thing, the body weight now, everything else is really good. So I'm really happy with this camera. I'm pretty much just about ready to buy. So I hope that clears it up with the autofocus. Just take it from me, that even after just a few hours of tweaking and playing about with it, it works really well in video mode. And the autofocus anyway with stills is fantastic. So take it from me, autofocus is pretty good, just needs a bit more looking into to get it absolutely perfect. I haven't tested the audio yet, but I can assume it's going to be just as good because everything's pretty much the same as the GH5. You've got remote control settings on the side here. You've got mic and headphone input. First thing I look for on a camera when I'm buying one, make sure I've got a headphone jack and a microphone input. You've got full HDMI out as well, and then you've got the USB-C Type-C port as well. So, don't know what else to say at this point. I'm going to keep this video fairly short because for me, I was super impressed with this camera. The low light stuff, you'll see it beat the Canon 5D Mark IV. It's newer tech anyway, but it beat it by a fair shot. So if you get a chance to see those videos, have a look at those. Stills image quality was absolutely fantastic. Now the video, I'll very quickly talk before I wrap this up about the video quality on here. Because you've got 400 megabits per second, all intra, 4K, 422 output, it's absolutely brilliant. But the aging GH5 has got the same, and I found it difficult to see a difference in between the two. I think the GH5 has still got that power. It's still got that incredible video. So I think they were very similar. Depending on what lens you use, you're not going to see a difference. So if you're looking for a smaller form camera, because if you look at the difference between the size of this and the GH5, you'll see that this is an absolute beast compared to that. So if you're looking for a pure video camera, I would say stick with the GH5 because the video output at full resolution at 4K, even on a micro four thirds sensor, the all intra 400 megabits per second was as good as this. Okay, so I didn't see much difference. So if you put if you get a Metabone speed booster for the GH5 with a Canon lens or another kind of lens if you already got a high quality lens, you're not going to see the difference between that and the S1H, and your clients certainly aren't, especially if you're outputting to 1080p. So you can see a very quick clip here I did of a close-up of a watch, and I could barely see any difference. In fact, I think I preferred the GH5 footage. But if you're looking for a really good hybrid camera, if you're a wedding photographer, a commercial photographer, if you like to shoot video maybe for stock, even if you're a videographer, if you're doing commercial videos, this is one of the best all-round cameras I've ever seen, and I'm pretty certain I'm going to buy it. Unless the GH6 has got amazing autofocus and a bigger sensor, which it won't have, I'm going to get one of these later on in the year. So it's going to be good for the few years to come. GH5 is still going after a few years, and I think it will still keep being relevant for the next 3 or 4 years, and I think this will be relevant for at least another 5 years. It's that good. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like it, put a thumbs up, do whatever you need to do, share it, comment please, let me know your thoughts. But I will be doing other videos including comparing this to the 5D Mark IV for stills and video compared to the GH5. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.